Continuing Tobago Thursdays on the Now Morning Show. We're very excited for our next guest. We have with us this morning on the line Independent Senator Dr. Dillon-Remy. Good morning, Doctor.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for asking. How's your morning been so far?
Great so far. However, I didn't get to go to the sea because I had to wait on this program, and therefore a little jaded, but it's good to be here.
Well, we're not going to keep you for too long, but just long enough to learn a little bit more about you, of course, and share with our viewers, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but worldwide as well. So before we get into all the different hats that you wear and that you have worn, who is Dr. Maria Dillon-Remy?
Maria Dillon-Remy is a child of the Most High God, created for purpose. He put me into a village called Buku Point in Tobago. That's where I was born, to parents who were very valuable to me. I was the fifth of six children. My father was a fisherman and one of the first reef tour operators in the early days, taking people to the reef. My mother was a housewife who became entrepreneur because of the needs. So she had a little parlor down in the village and she started to do bed and breakfast and stuff like that. So country girl, Buku girl, sea girl, created for purpose.
From humble beginnings and now sitting in, seats that many dare and want to sit in, of course, talking about in Trinidad and Tobago Parliament and in the Senate. So, Dr. Dillon-Remy, you just shared with us your humble beginnings, and looking at where you are now, two things. Did you know from that young age that you were destined for service? Because, of course, looking at you now as a senator, as a doctor, as a mentor as well, service is something that you do, but what were the challenges like for you as well?
Okay. Destined for service, yes, but service in medicine. It was interesting because as I was growing up, our mother used to be in and out of hospital, hypertensive, diabetic with heart disease. And somewhere along the line, I think it was probably around age of 10, I said I wanted to be a doctor so that I could be able to help people like her. So this is where the desire was born for me being in medicine. And that desire remained, and I haven't regretted any day of it. So serving in a medical capacity, yes. I never dreamed, never thought of serving in the parliament. And people ask me about being in politics. I don't see myself as being in politics. I see myself as a person who has been asked to serve in the parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, to assist with lawmaking as someone who has had experience in the public sector and who has had a desire to see leaders lead well. And when I was asked, I said yes to that. However, I still don't see myself as a politician because I do think of politics as party politics, unfortunately. And not only that, but our father told us for many years, please do not get into politics. He told us that, and therefore that is probably one of the reasons why I still don't see myself as a politician. But serving, yes. I see myself as someone serving in a capacity at the level of the parliament. I accept that label.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, acts of service is what we live for. So what was the transition like going from medicine into parliament? Let's say that. What was that transition like for you, and how did it affect your career into Senate?
Okay. So the first thing I had already, I left as the hospital medical director at the hospital in Tobago. I did that in 2010. And for 2 years was on the transition team for the opening of the new hospital, Scarborough General Hospital. And when that hospital opened in 2012, I retired from the public sector. So I was doing my pediatric practice in private and getting involved in John Maxwell leadership team. And I think that is what my involvement in that leadership team. John Maxwell is a well-known world leader in terms of developing leaders. It is because I think of my role in that team, my development in that team, why I said yes when I was asked to go into the parliament. Because I didn't see it, I saw it more as a leadership, helping to lead in my nation, and rather than going into politics. So when I transitioned, for one, I was already out of the public sector in terms of working in my private practice and dealing with something in terms of leadership development, which I thought would fit into being in the parliament. And that's why I said yes. However, being in the parliament has been a, what can I say? It has been for me an eye opener. For one, I am a reserved person, so I really don't like the being in the public's eye. That's not my that's not my it's not something I love. However, I do it because I have to, and I do it. So I say I'm there. I only say something if I need to say. I don't just go talking and stuff like that for the fact that I'm in the public eye. That is not something I would do. But being there, that transition was a transition at that time, and I said I would give it my best shot.
And you definitely have been trailblazing, not just, in politics, not just when you're serving in the Senate, but also when it comes to, of course, your work in the medical field. Now, I know you mentioned you started off in pediatrics. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, of course, coming off of the heels of International Women's Day on Tuesday, the theme was breaking the bias. Did you experience any sort of gender bias, not just in medicine coming up, but also then transitioning into serving in the Senate?
So, absolutely not. I didn't experience any. I'm not too sure if it's because I wasn't looking for any, but I certainly never experienced any. Growing up as a child, as a young girl, there were never any barriers put before me, neither did I ever see any. When I said I wanted to do medicine, my parents never said, you can't because you're a girl or anything of the sort. They just facilitated to the degree that they could. And when I went to school, Bishop's High School in Tobago, again, you were taught to be a leader. And then Bishop Anstey High School in Trinidad for A-levels. I never thought that there were any barriers to my being who I was destined to be. So that went through all of my career. Trained in pediatrics. When I went to England, again, I had no issues there. And then when I came back, it has just been all service with people who are also willing to serve, and I really never experienced any gender biases. And in the Senate, as you know right now, we have a female leader of the Senate, a female leader of the House, and our president is a female. I have never really felt that as a female, I would have limitations because of my gender. I've never experienced that. It's a good thing.
It is a good thing, and it's wonderful to hear as well. One of the things that we noted here on the Now Morning Show from International Women's Day to today is that in Trinidad and Tobago, when we look at the public service, we just ask women generally, do you experience gender bias? Many women say no, if not the majority. So it's wonderful to hear that from you this morning.
I think it has been because of our education system. At least this has been my experience. Well, I mean, I would say if I had the bias that I would have had was the bias of, did I have enough resources to do what I wanted to do, but never because of my gender. And because of our education system that allowed you, whether your parents had money or not, or parents didn't have a lot, but the fact that schools were paid for by the government allowed us to be the best we could be in terms of our education. And that education did bring us out of the, let's say, poverty, and they have not. It has not been a deterrent at all.
Agreed,
being female.
Agreed, Dr. Dillon-Remy. So as we're, of course, in the conversation of females, I know you are versed in professional development, also in leadership and skills in general. What words of advice do you have for the younger women out there who aspire to be like you and are able to serve the nation eventually?
To the young woman out there, just make sure you know who you are. That's the most important thing. Know what your giftings and talents are. Know what you were wired for, and therefore what you want to do. And know that you can do anything. Well, of course, you have to be guided by your parents, and the environment that you are in is important. So even as you're growing up, you can seek out mentors, seek out people who would guide you along the way. I know for me, I did have mentors going through both high school and when I got into medicine, wanting to know what to do. I did have mentors there. So seek out good mentors and keep focused. Make sure that you are doing what you are called to do to the best of your ability, and the rest will come. Because for me, I didn't seek to go into the Senate. I didn't seek to go into Parliament. But clearly, someone saw something that I was doing and said, this person may make a good fit here. So, therefore, wherever you are serving, whatever you're doing, do it to the best of your ability. In school, growing up, when your schoolwork, when you go to study in terms of your university career, do your best. And also, in terms of whatever you do in terms of your calling, do it to the best of your ability. Someone is going to notice and ask you to serve in wherever they see it fit, and which will be in keeping with what you are called to do. I'm really key on calling. I'm really key on purpose, because if I wasn't, I mean, I don't think I should be serving in anywhere I wasn't called to be. Right? As a pediatrician, I loved every moment of it. I have not regretted one day in my medical career and pediatric career particularly. And in what I'm doing here now, I just hope to be serving to the best of my ability until such time as it ends. And after that, I will continue to serve until such time as the Lord calls me home.
Definitely. Dr. Dillon-Remy, focusing on your calling, which really is the key, because at the end of the day, we're not just serving one another, we're not just serving ourselves, but we're also serving a higher purpose, of course, talking about God. Dr. Dillon-Remy, thank you so much for taking the time out of your morning schedule to be with us. We really appreciate it. And thank you so much for your service. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the beach for all of us here on the Now Morning Show.
Pleasure. Yes, you see, that's where we swim on mornings. Mount Irvin.
Oh, my goodness.
Very nice.
No, you're just showing off.
I'm not showing off. I'm just sharing with you the joy we have in Tobago.
Enjoy it for us, please.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Wonderful. Wow. Can you imagine every single morning getting up and taking a swim in Mount Irvin Beach?
I definitely can. But what we need to do right now, though, is take a quick break and we come back with more inside the Now Morning Show. Like, go ahead and imagine. We take a break. We come back.